I guess I better get this video done. It's the first time in a while that I've felt comfortable sitting outside my house because it's been, in the 90s up to 100, 32 degrees plus Celsius here in Basel for a while. So I'm outside. It's a rainy day, so I want to just share a couple things before the rain comes. I've been in the U.S. quite a bit, and while I was in the U.S., I guess it was around the first week in August. I got there around the 3rd or 4th. There was some communication coming out on social media, particularly around and LinkedIn, around the distinction between the social justice, what's been framed the past couple of years as anti-racism work, versus how DEI works. Now, I don't want to rehash it. I think all of us that have been on this particular platform have seen it enough. What I do want to emphasize is that in all these conversations, what we didn't get into in the depth that I think we could have gotten into was around context. Now, if I was in the US and then I came back here to Switzerland, and obviously, yes, there's racism everywhere, but the conversation that we have is oftentimes without context. And there's some people there's plenty of folks, and I'll mention some of them in the comments, but that have talked about context and how important it is for us to elevate that conversation. Well, the reason why I say that is because in my book, Reconstructing Inclusion, Making a DEI Accessible, Actionable, and Sustainable, the question of what does accessible mean in the DEI space constantly comes to mind for me. And while I was writing the book, it came to mind. The thing that makes DEI successful is for people to see themselves inside of the paradigm. And when we talk about DEI and anti-racism, social justice separate from that, obviously there are some people who are all in, who have might identify as white, that get into that from a U.S. and in some cases other Western contexts like the U.K. However, when you go outside of that context, you miss a lot of dynamics that are not relevant for everybody across the globe. So if you're a global DEI practitioner and you are separating race as a one context, even though we all are clear that race is not a monolithic notion, just like gender or any other single identity isn't, that's how it could end up coming off as this monolithic notion that says you're outside of that. And if you want it to be successful, it's likely that that's going to be a challenge because that's been the framing and therefore the context for a lot of people. So that's kind of one of many things that I'd like to say about this topic, but context is critical. I think we need to examine it more as practitioners, whether our stance is more towards the social justice, anti-racist, civil rights stance, as we've heard in the past from Dr. Roosevelt Thomas in his diversity paradigms, versus the performance stance that gets into all types of diversity and all of their multidimensionality coming into play, and that, quite honestly, diversity and all of its complexity is a part of everything we do. Reconstructing Inclusion, Making DEI Accessible, Actionable, and Sustainable comes out in October, November. More details, you can also pre-order it through my profile. Thanks. Make it a great day.